Hey, everybody out there in TV land. I hope your evening, day, afternoon, whatever it is going absolutely amazing on this beautiful Thursday. Here, reporting live from the one, the only Flynn studio in Margate, Florida, aka in Margate, Florida, in the hobby shop here at Flynn's. If you want to rent the hobby shop or start your own podcast or your stream or whatever, by all means, hit us up at studio at flynn'sgaming.com. That's where to check out all the details. We have all the equipment, we have all the cameras, all the mics, all the soundproofing. We even got chairs that you can use if you need them for your stream or your podcast or your book recording or your voice audition, whatever it is. So hit us up, studio at flynn'sgaming.com. Have we got an episode for you this evening? This is Eddie Acevedo, aka the Bearded One, reporting live from Flynn's studio in Margate, Florida, inside of Flynn's hobby shop, right next to the arcade. And this is episode 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of Press F to Start, your gaming news podcast. And it wouldn't be Press F to Start without my epic co-host, the one, the only, Jake James Lugo. Jake, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing good. We got an eclipse tonight. Lunar eclipse happening later tonight after we finish recording. I'm gonna go check out. But other than that, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. I was like, well, what time was it? What time, Jake, is the lunar eclipse on this evening?
From my understanding, it starts turning the moon red because of the actual sun rays and stuff and the shadow that it's actually reflecting onto it
Mm-hmm.
from the sun's rays around like 12 midnight or around 12 midnight and then goes till about like 3 a.m. Is when everything goes back to normal. But like in the middle of that, like 1 or 2 a.m. is when it actually the moon's gonna be a full red. It's called blood moon.
Okay, interesting. So, for those catching this podcast, stream, live broadcast, wherever and whenever you are, hopefully you're able to catch that lunar eclipse. It is, right? Right? Is it lunar eclipse?
Yeah, lunar eclipse.
Lunar
Hmm.
eclipse this evening. Whenever you're able to catch that, that's always really cool to kind of like, I don't know. I remember in school like seeing the solar eclipse when they give you those little glasses and had the little
Yeah.
slit in it, so
Or
you
you have
could
to use
look at
the
it.
pinhole with the shoebox.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
actual pinhole with the shoebox. Look at it.
I remember those. Man, the
Hmm.
shoebox. Holy moly.
Yeah, that's real old school.
That's really
You
old
know,
school. They'd be like, all right, boys and girls, let's go make these shoe boxes so you can see the solar eclipse. Now look into the sun. Look into the
yeah,
sun.
yeah, right.
Look into the sun now. You'll be just fine. But anyways, awesome, dude. I hope your night's going great. Hope your day's going great. Is it going great? I mean, what have you been up to? Anything new, exciting this
Oh, I've
last
been a
week?
busy bee. I've been a busy bee
Okay.
doing a lot of different stuff today. Earlier, I just announced and told everybody about my panels going on at Sunrise Comic Con that we talked about last week.
Yep.
I actually have the details of everything. I announced it on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere that we normally talk to everybody. I put it on all social media, the times, as well as also the actual descriptions of the panels. I'm the last two panels that happen on Saturday, this Saturday, by the way, at the time that we're recording this. They're going to be at 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. at what is it, the Sunrise Civic Center or the
Yep.
Sunrise
Sunrise Civic Center.
Center?
Yep. Right there in
Uh,
Sunrise.
yeah, and the first panel is going to be all about gaming, about the gaming topics that people care about in 2025. We're going to talk about everything related to video games. And then the panel after that, which is matches up perfectly because the 501st is going to be there, is Star Wars in 2025. Everything about Star Wars, the big topics that are related to it, and just a big fun fan interaction discussion with everybody that I hope everybody that listens to this and everybody that goes to Flynn's could go check it out because it's going to be fun. I'm the last panels of the day, so I'm hoping I have a good turnout.
It's always a great time at Sunrise Comic Con. This is probably year 5 or 6 of us being a part of it because we actually did
Mm.
Sunrise Comic Con before Flynn's was even open, and we've been open for little over 5 years now. So always a great
Yeah.
time, guys. It's a community centric comic convention, and it's not just comics. There's anime, there's manga stuff. We're bringing in exotic snacks and freeze dried stuff and different drinks and some Gundam kits. We have the arcade games. We got a Smash Ultimate tournament. Registration starts at or ends at 12, and then the grand finals will be over in the auditorium. I believe at like 4:30, 4:45. Pedro is helping us out with that. Media Nuts helping us out with that for the Smash Ultimate tournament. It's just a great time. And the cool thing also is if you bring your wristband or your lanyard or a verification of your purchased pass from Sunrise Comic Con over to Flynn's the entire weekend, you can enjoy the arcade for just $10 for whatever day you choose to enjoy it. And of course, like Jake said, there's amazing panels going on. I have been in many of Jake's panels before as a not necessarily in the panel, but like in the room. It's always a great
I like the
time.
audience.
In the audience, there you go. Thank you, Jake. In the audience,
Yeah.
always a great time, guys. And be sure to stick
Yeah, everybody
around.
knows.
Stay to the
Everybody knows
end.
when I do a panel, it's going to be good. Like everybody enjoys whenever they go. So I'm hope, like I said, I'm the last two of the day out of all the guests that are going to be there
Right.
in that same room that most of all the guests are going to have their panels. So if you're around, come check it out. You know, come hang out, come say hi. I'll be roaming around that day as well because I'm going to be getting there early with everybody and just hanging out with everybody beforehand.
Oh, totally, totally, man. And of course, guys, if you're over at the Flynn's area, we are going to be in the gymnasium. So there's like, as I explained on the live stream last night, there's like when you walk up, you make a left, and then you just kind of go down the hallway, and you'll see the gymnasium area. We're usually right by the arcade games. We got awesome free stickers for you. We got exotic snacks, freeze dried, all that good stuff. And that's at the Sunrise Comic Con this Saturday, whenever you're listening to this or watching it, March 15th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. A great time, a lot of family friendly fun. It's just a fun time all around. So we got that cooking, guys. And then in the evening here at Flynn's Arcade in Margate, Florida, from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., we have the one, the only Angela leading us in karaoke, which is our monthly karaoke. It's our emo karaoke night, which should be a lot of fun. And it's always a great time to see everybody's beautiful voices for the evening. So you got a whole weekend pack of awesomeness, and we got a bunch of more events and things coming up, Flynn's wise, that we'll get into a little later, if not another episode. But we are press F to start your gaming news podcast, indie games, how games relate to pop culture. Sometimes we reminisce a little bit about what it was like to be in the gaming world or a kid back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and just things that you may have not come into contact with, because that just wasn't your walk in life. And the Press F to Start podcast is a part of the Uncensored Nerds Network. So that's Uncensored Nerds Network. You can check them out on Instagram. Underneath the umbrella of Uncensored Nerds, there's other podcasts such as Comic Con Podcast, We Got Issues, Plot Hole Pro, and Beyond the Cape. Be sure to check them all out on Instagram or wherever you check out your podcast. And of course, we're working constantly to get all the appropriate links and everything up. And you guys know where to find Flynn's. We're here in Margate, Florida, or you can catch us on pretty much every single social media platform, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, all at Flynn's Gaming FL. But Jake, let's say they want to talk more about gaming with you. Where can they find you on social media?
I am literally on every single social media platform that you all are probably using. If you want to see me on Twitter/X at Jake James Lugo, you can also find me at Jake James Lugo on Blue Sky, on Threads, on Instagram, as well as also on YouTube, youtube.com/at Jake James Lugo, and on TikTok. Every day I'm uploading there on TikTok, multiple videos a day, tiktok.com/at Jake James Lugo. I literally put the announcement to Sunrise Comic Con on my TikTok earlier today for everybody to check out, as well as, announcing it everywhere else on social media. So if you want to find me on there, if you guys want to check out my content or just say what's up and just chat, just hit me up and follow me on all those platforms.
And guys, we try to work it throughout the stream this evening, and every stream we're getting better each and every time by interacting with comments or questions or things you want to know about. Feel free to drop those comments in. I'm monitoring as many chats as I possibly can. And if we hit on a topic that you want to dig into, let us know. Or if you have a topic or an idea that we should look into, by all means, reach out, let us know in general. Also, we got a lot of awesome things to cover, and today that Jake has dug up and definitely done his homework, as he always says. He
I
definitely
always do.
presents an unbiased opinion, and just telling the facts for what they are and keeping us updated with what we should know about in the gaming news arena for this past week. So, Jake, where do you think we should start when we started the stream today? How do you want to start this? What do you want to start talking
I don't
about?
know. Give me a good random one because since I'm so nice when it comes to talking about gaming stuff, as you know, and as many of them know, and many people are going to find out this Saturday, give me a random one and we'll just pick it up from there. We'll
Okay.
freestyle it.
So we're going to freestyle it here because this upcoming, technically it's not Friday yet, but on Saturday at midnight, we're doing our pre-release event for Pokemon for Journey Together. So let's just straight, and if you want to attend that, by all means, Flynn's Hobby, come on out. It's going to be a great time. But let's start with the things over at Kotaku about the Pokemon Go being sold to the Saudi government. People hear that statement of saying, wait a second, Pokemon Go is sold to the Saudi government. Let's dig a little deeper into what really that means.
So basically, anybody that knows anything about Pokemon Go, if you play the game, if you've been following the game, it's massive, as we all know. It was originally owned by Niantic. They're the ones that published it and I believe developed it as well. But it's been massive. Recently, news came out that they sold the Pokemon Go game and just everything related to it to another company that's based in Saudi Arabia. Now, I can't remember the name. You have to tell me the name that's in that article there because I know that I'm constantly keep forgetting. But
Scopely.
basically, that which what is it called?
I think it's called Scopely, C or
Scopely.
Scopely.
Okay, yes, Scopely. They're basically a company based in Saudi Arabia that's owned by the Saudi government, by the Saudi royal family. And that has a number of indications for many different reasons. Number one, obviously, the game not being under, what is it, Niantic's
Yep.
influence is fundamentally going to change the game, which is going to change a lot of things that players have known over the past couple of years that they've been playing Pokemon Go. Could be for better or worse. At the same time, the Saudi royal family has been a little bit weird, or at least the impression of them has been a little bit weird for many different things. A lot of them political, which is not really relevant to our conversation here, but it still has a weird perception amongst people, especially in the games industry, because there's a lot of big money that's getting floated around towards different companies. Another company that also has involvement with stuff in the Middle East is SNK Playmore. Anybody that's excited for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, they own SNK Playmore, and it's the same thing. It's a very weird and awkward time with a lot of stuff that's going on. But what's more important and relevant to us is how is this going to fundamentally change the game? Now, we don't know specifically because they haven't done anything yet. This is just all brand new. And a lot of people, myself included, and many others that have been reporting on it, are hoping that many of the things that we know for Pokemon Go remain the same, or at least stay on the same trajectory that the game has been on.
Now, a question for you, Jake, is like I've been as I was reading through this article when you sent it over, a section of the article talks about it in this language, and I'm just going to repeat it because I think it's worth definitely digging
Mhm.
into. It says here, the mobile game maker Scopely, which is owned by the Saudi Royal Investment Fund, announced its
Yeah.
purchase of this hit game along with the rest of how do you pronounce that? Niantic
Niantic.
Niantic Labs
Niantic.
business for $3.5 billion. And it
A
says the
lot of money.
sales comes after the tech company failed to create any more hits on the scale of Pokemon Go.
Hmm.
So Niantic Labs wasn't able to, I guess, create another high performing game. But the article went deeper into it and started talking about why is the Saudi government doing this, or the Saudi government investment group doing this, and
Hmm.
how they had investments in buying small stakes in Nintendo and Electronic Arts. And
Yes.
it says here, as well as recent attempts at sports washing, have drawn criticism over the country's abysmal human rights record, including, and it keeps going, reported, excuse me, it goes talking about the killing of the columnist back in
No,
2018,
the journalist,
the
I believe.
journalist,
I
yeah,
believe it was a
the
journalist. Yeah.
journalist back in 2018. And my question for you, I kind of wrote it down as I was digging into this, is like, why? I mean, we don't know why this is happening, but why do you believe, and have we seen it before, governments or government instituted investment groups buy video games, like, or buy entertainment companies? I mean, what do you think the logic is
Well,
there?
I don't know about buying specifically. You would have to really go dig through history to find something like that.
Right,
But we've obviously had many other instances over history of the governments getting involved in video games in different ways.
right.
The biggest, probably the most popular example would be Russia with Tetris. Remember,
Yeah,
the origins of Tetris started
true
in
that.
Russia, and it again there's a whole movie and documentary you could go watch about that. We'd be here literally all weekend talking about this stuff. But with the Middle East specifically, and obviously the Saudi Royal Investment Fund and the royal family, they're trying to expand a lot of their business ventures with a lot of stuff in their country
Right.
outside of the stuff that they've usually been doing over many different years. Um, there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that people are worried about for obvious reasons. And again, a lot of it really has nothing to do with our conversations here about games because it gets very
Of
political
course, yeah.
and very, very like other conversations outside of gaming. But the problem is though is that a lot of that stuff also influences games in different ways because this is the same thing what's happened in a couple big game releases that are related to China and the CCP, where certain games will get censored because they mention Tibet or they mention other things that the Chinese government doesn't want talked about or perceived a certain way. It's the same thing that could happen with this one. But again, nothing's really happened with it. But it really comes down to is like who's influencing who has the final say, who has the bigger say, who has the bigger like vote on certain things. And when you have a or a group, I should say, it's not really a company, but a group that a lot of people feel very uneasy about or have a certain perception of, then you start hearing them spend a lot of money and start getting much more bigger stakes in larger companies like that. It opens up a whole other can of worms as far as a conversation. And it's just weird. I think personally for me, it's them just trying to expand their businesses. It's them trying to find like other means of generating profit and revenue and also getting much more stuff for their infrastructure for their country. But we'll see what happens. I think when people first heard about the stuff with Nintendo, when the Saudi royal
Right.
family bought some stakes in Nintendo,
Yeah.
that's when people really started to get worried. But again, this is Nintendo. They're very stubborn. They like maintaining a very Japanese centric, I guess you could say leadership or whatever that's within their companies, their infrastructure
Right.
like that. But again, you're going to see other companies, and look, they even had the same thing with Embracer Group. Embracer Group has ties to the CCP, to the Chinese Communist Party and stuff, and they bought a whole bunch of other publishers and other IP, in hopes of actually putting out games in relation to it. So it gets very messy. Let me put it that way. It gets
Yeah.
very messy all
We
around.
have Michael. We have Michael and Ray. What's up, Ray? Super Monster Party guys. Check them out. He'll also be there with the band at Sunrise Comic Con. We have them chiming in. And before I get to their comments, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Jake. Why countries do what they do. It could be for censorship. It could be for access to their user base. I believe last I
Exactly.
read is that Pokemon Go has like 100 million active users.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's insane.
So if you have 100 million active users and you want to gain data and statistical or analytical information on that group, or you want to quote unquote influence that group with whatever it is, definitely interesting gobbling up those companies. And I absolutely love, dude, that comment you made about Tetris, because a lot of people forget of the
Yeah.
turmoil the creator of Tetris had to go
Yeah, he
through.
never made a profit on Tetris for many years
Yeah.
because it was owned by the Russian government. And
Yep.
then they had to go, I think it was Nintendo or
Yep.
the representatives of Nintendo had to go, or a lawyer, I forgot his name, but they did a whole movie about this where he had to actually go to Russia and get the rights to Tetris so that way they could put it on the Game Boy.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing because remember, Game Boy was just being released. They wanted to package Tetris with Game Boy because they knew it was going to
Yeah.
be a hit. And also remember, he had designed it to work on that, on that technology level. You know what I'm saying? To be able to play it. And
Yeah.
that Tetris movie, we had Michael asking about it. The Tetris movie, Michael, was actually called Tetris, and it was released in
Yeah.
2023. So there you go. You can
Yeah,
go and watch it.
I reviewed it. I reviewed it a while
It's a
back,
great
but there's
movie.
other documentaries that get into the specifics of that story because that Tetris movie is a little bit more sensationalized and fictionalized with some of the facts, but they base it heavily on what actually happened.
If
It's
you
just it's for dramatic effect.
if you want to watch a really great Tetris documentary, it's not necessarily so much about the history of it, but definitely the players surrounding it. If you guys ever want to dive down the rabbit hole of craziness, go watch or type into YouTube competitive Tetris players, and you'll
Oh
watch
yeah, they're nuts.
the gloves
They are
they wear, the
nuts.
slap they wear. There's a specific way they do it so they can hit controller like 4 different times as their fingers roll down the controller. They hold the controller usually at an angle. They tap through the back like that. There's a movie or documentary called Ecstasy of Order, the Tetris Masters. It is. I've watched it a number of times. You can watch it now for free on Tubi. Once again, that's Ecstasy of Order, the Tetris Masters. Definitely a great documentary. Not so much about the political side of things, but the players in general. But nonetheless, it
Yeah,
is
that's
really
pretty wild. That's pretty cool.
it's a lot of fun, man. We should do an episode maybe on all about video game documentaries. I have
Oh, I got my favorite one,
what
hands down. I know
which
my
one?
immediate
What's your one?
favorite one.
What's your one?
It's King of the Kong. King of Kong.
King of Kong.
The King
Yes,
of
with
Kong,
Billy
because
Mitchell
I
and
got to meet Billy Mitchell, but also like I've watched that movie ever since it first came out. Like
oh, dude,
that's a good documentary that's outdated now, technically.
King of Kong is a great documentary. There's another one called Fistful of Quarters is another great
Yeah,
one.
Fistful of Quarters. Yeah, is that the mid? That's the midway one, right?
I think that's a midway one. I forget exactly what it's
Yeah,
about.
because I know a couple people that worked on that.
There's another one called Chasing Ghosts. That is a really good one. There's a one called Nibbler, or no, excuse me, Man versus Snake. It's the story of the world, one of the world record holders of Nibbler. If you don't know what Nibbler is a really cool
Mm.
game. And I too, man, I enjoy all these really weird, nerdy documentaries and kind of digging into this weird underculture that you never knew existed. But
There-
to get
there's a couple good ones. There's a couple different ones I've seen over the years that are based on the FGC. That's a
yes,
huge, like, obviously there's a number of them that include people like Justin Wong and a whole bunch of other people that are like figureheads of that scene. A lot of good stuff.
well,
A lot of great documentary series.
even also to branch out away from console gaming or arcade games, even there's like a lot of good games about PC gamers as well. You know, Dota
Yeah.
and League of Legends and Warcraft,
Doom,
Doom.
huge one.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
documentaries of that. So if you're into the nerdy culture, and hopefully you are because you're watching this stream or
That gets
listening,
real
whatever,
deep.
go deep into it. That's where, you know, not to go off on a tangent, but basically that's where I became really infatuated with Ready Player One. And so like
Yeah.
I was watching a documentary about the worst game ever made, the whole ET Atari game story. And
Which for the record, technically not the worst game ever made, but we get it.
yeah,
Like
I mean, it is in a landfill, you know, because they make too many of them.
yeah,
So,
it is in a
um,
landfill. That
but
has more to do with the crash though than the game itself, which is
yeah, and
crazy.
you know what? I give mad props. I believe did Bushnell handle that game for Atari?
No, there's no.
Who was it?
I don't think
Who
so. I'm
was
not
the
sure.
designer of
I,
it?
you gotta go back in freaking Wikipedia or someplace to find
Designer
out. I
of
know that
ET.
they overprinted that game. That's why they had to put it inside the landfill, and because of the crash,
I
all that stuff
apologize.
happened at the
I
same time.
apologize. E.T. was Howard Scott Warshaw. Warshaw
Okay,
was
work.
the designer of E.T. on Atari. So my bad, Mr. Warsaw. This game. Anyways, there is this documentary about his story about the game, and if you guys want to dig into what this man had to do in the short amount of time with, and remind you, Steven Spielberg saw the finished product and was okay with it.
Yeah,
And
he wrote it off. Like he was like, "Yeah,
he's like,
let's
let's
go."
run with it. And it was through this documentary that I was watching that I learned about Ernest Cline. And Ernest Cline is the writer of Ready Player One. And Ready Player One literally just blew my mind. I read it every single year. I listen to it every single year. And it kind of like allowed me to dive deeper into the nerdism. But to get back around full circle, we both made comments about, you know, governments do this from time to time where they jump in, they take a controlling stake in a company. We see it here all the time, and who knows what they're going to do with the data. But once again, 100 million monthly active users, that's worth a pretty penny. So we'll have to
Lot.
wait and see what comes around with Pokemon Go. So for you Pokemon Go players out there, keep us in the loop. Let us know what happens with your Pokemon Go
Also, if the game
experience.
changes
Yeah, does the game
significantly, like if
change?
anything gets really updated or changed, like in the next couple of months, I should say, because a lot of that stuff will be a slow rollout as they start to change up or update the game.
Exactly. Let us know and pay attention to those little nuances and, you know, speak up if there's something that you don't necessarily, I don't know, like, I guess. So definitely going to wait and see what happens with Scopely's acquisition of Pokemon Go. Just a friendly reminder that they also own a catalog of Stumble Guys, Star Trek Fleet Command, and Monopoly Go. So in
Yeah,
reality,
mobile games.
mobile games, it's not outside their wheelhouse. And this is backed by the investment group, the Savvy Games Investment Group, for $4.9 billion back in 2023. So that's what they purchased
Hmm.
those and joined them underneath that particular mobile world. And I mean, mobile games are very popular. So like that's why I had to get rid of
They make a
RuneScape
lot
on
of
my
money
phone.
for a lot of places.
Yeah,
The people play them.
I cannot have RuneScape on my phone.
I'm not, I don't look at mobile gaming in the same way that I do console and PC gaming, and I think it's done for many different reasons. For me, it's because I find mobile games to be a little bit predatory. I think we've talked about it
Yeah,
in past episodes
about
at
like
one
the pay
point
to
or
enter kind
mentioned
of
it.
thing or pay to win strategy.
Yeah, like kind of a pay to play and a pay to like, just progress like that. And I just find it to be a little bit predatory, but some people like those games and they're a legit platform for releasing stuff on there.
No, I agree. I mean, wherever you enjoy your gaming, whether it's PC, console, arcade game, whatever, your mobile phone, hey, do you just be conscious of what you're getting yourself into and the consent forms that you're signing as you're beginning to play the games. Just something to be aware of. But to change the gear
Exactly.
ever so slightly, here at Flynn's Arcade and Flynn's Hobby Shop, we have a very hardcore Warhammer community, Warhammer 40K community. Our Discord is live. If you guys haven't joined our Discord and you want to talk to other Flynn's family members, other nerdy people like yourself, or you want to get into that culture, hit up our link in our bio, join our Discord, totally free to join. and we are going to pivot into Warhammer 40K because just 6 months after Space Marine 2's launch, Space Marine 3 has been announced. I mean, Jake, is
Yep.
that a quick time? Is that normal? I mean,
No, that's not normal because they've probably been working on that for a hot minute.
okay.
And, I think it's a good thing because people like Warhammer 40K Space Marine. Space Marine, if you never played it before, it's a third person action game, very similar to Gears of War in a lot of ways, but it deals with Space Marines. And that's like a big deal for a lot of people. The games are actually pretty good. Space Marine 2 actually scored pretty well in a lot of reviews. I've only dabbled with the first Space Marine game. I never got to play Space Marine 2. I was hoping that it would go on Game Pass at some point so I could actually download it and just play it, or on PS Plus at some point, and it still hasn't yet. There's been other Warhammer games I've played, but they're definitely not as good as Space Marine in general. So this is cool because, again, there's more Warhammer. There's a lot of Warhammer stuff that's being made. I mean, we had the secret level stuff for Amazon, that episode of Warhammer 40K.
Yep.
We're getting this. We're getting the Henry Cavill movie or the series that it's being worked on. Like there's stuff that's being done with this franchise and with this universe, which sounds like it's going to be awesome. Once that movie or that series hits, it's going to get even better.
So if you've never experienced the Space Marine 2, you now have Space Marine 3 coming out. And then throughout this article found on Push Square, it talks about how the guys are saying, listen, we're still going to support Space Marine 2 and as they roll and work on Space Marine 3. And you know what? Kudos to them for pushing this game out. And like you said, they're probably working on this game for quite a while. First person shooter, right, Jake? It's first person shooter?
No, third person action. Third person
Okay,
action is really what it's at.
Is where it's at. And believe it or not, I did a quick little Google search. Warhammer, obviously, in the tabletop world, has been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So, but the interesting thing, as I typed in here real quickly about games, like video games, believe it or not, in 1991, Hero Quest was the first title here mentioned. It was for DOS. It was for the Atari ST. It was a digital tabletop game. It was a turn-based tactics. And it's really cool to see here that you have Warhammer in 1991 with Hero Quest. Then you go up to Blood Bowl in 1995. Then you go up to Warhammer Mark of Chaos in 2006. Then you go into another Blood Bowl in 2009, Warhammer Quest in 2013. You have in 2015, they go ham. They got like 5 or 6 games launch. And then I'm just looking down in terms of all the games for that.
And then you get Space Marine eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Warhammer Age of Sigmar stuff. And then you have Warhammer 40K, which the first Warhammer 40K was Space Crusade in 1992 through Gremlin Interactive. And then, like you said,
this
Jake,
is PC gaming, people. Yeah, this is real PC gaming.
This is like OG because it's digital tabletop games, turn-based tactics. I'm partial to the older PC strategy games. Why is the name escaping me?
Warcraft.
No.
Warcraft.
The one with the Soviets, the red one.
What is it? Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer. There you go. I'm thinking the red
Command
cover.
And Conquer
Command and Conquer. I mean, heck, even in this computer right now in the disk drive, I have oh my gosh, what do I?
Age of Empires.
No. I don't have Age of Empires. I had
Civilization.
No.
StarCraft.
No, not StarCraft. I was playing it the other day. I'm gonna open it up. I have Company of Heroes. So
Company of Heroes. Okay.
That guy was like. So that
I had to go through the whole list just to get to
that. That Company of Heroes. You guys can see I actually have a disc inside the computer. Company of Heroes. I love this war strategy game. A lot of fun playing it on my PC. And like you said, man, this is where it all started with these old games that take forever to freaking load. And it's really cool to see, like you said, we have here going all the way down to the bottom. Space Marine 2 in 2024, and then we have here Space Marine 3, obviously coming up right around the corner. Yeah. I mean, kudos to them, man. Warhammer, and as I find more about Warhammer when it comes to the lore and comes to the gameplay, the tabletop game, because that's what we play here. I mean, dude, they thought it through. They got the lore, they got the backstory, they got books, they got comic books, they got movies, they got video. I mean, dude,
that thing gets deep. That's a deep rabbit hole.
So deep. If you want to step into a rabbit hole that is just totally different, Warhammer, 100%. Warhammer 100%. Now, I don't necessarily recommend you dive off the deep end and get into playing the tabletop game because
No,
that could
watch the
cost you.
secret level episode. Watch
Yes.
that episode from
Yes.
secret level if you want to get a taste of what Warhammer is like, especially
Yes.
Space Marine stuff. That's a perfect introduction. I really love that episode.
Oh
That
yeah.
episode was really fun to watch.
I enjoyed that whole little series, bro. I mean, that whole that the
Mhm.
one about Pac-Man. I mean,
Yeah, that's getting a game. That's getting a
that
game
was
this year
weird, bro.
based off of that, which is wild.
That was
So
a wild, wild, wild game, man. I mean,
trippy.
or wild, wild, trippy episode. Um, that's all I have to say. I'm not going to give any spoilers away. Just go watch it, guys. It's on Prime. Go watch it. Go watch that episode. Every single little episode I thought was well done, digging into just, I don't know, just it was just different. So I love different. So we got to stay tuned, see what Space Marine 3 has to offer. For those of you who are in the Warhammer, hey, congratulations, you got that. Now, something I'm into and I like, and we've talked about almost every
Mhm.
other episode, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I guess we've been on
Yeah.
a streak recently about TMT or
TMNT.
TMNT, the Turtles game rant that the went into it and they said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game is releasing May 22nd. Now, we know we talked about TMNT in Call of Duty, I believe it was. Um,
Yeah, it was in Call of Duty Black Ops
with
6 recently.
with the skins, we also talked about it
Yeah, with
making
the event that they had.
making it a really cool arcade game through I think what was it, Splinter's Revenge or
Mhm.
Shredder's Revenge,
No,
um,
Shredder's Revenge.
being a really cool arcade game. Now, this game is totally different. So I'm gonna let Jake take the reins here and explain what kind of game this is going to be because it's a little different.
Now, tell me the title again on there because I keep forgetting the title
So the
with
title of
this
this
thing.
game is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown.
Tactical Takedown. Okay, yeah. So Tactical Takedown is a strategy game or like pretty much like an RTS that is very similar to XCOM. If you've ever played XCOM Enemy Unknown or XCOM 2, it's almost exactly like that, but just with the Ninja Turtles. And from my understanding, they're going to get pretty deep with some of the lore stuff. You're going to find a lot of things if you followed the Turtles over the years or know anything of their comics. You're going to find a lot of fan service in this, and it's going to be fun because this is very different for this franchise. I don't think off the top of my head I could think of anything that's an RTS for the Ninja Turtles. They've had a lot of action games, arcade games, platformers, fighting games, etc. So this is very, very different. I think this will be interesting because there is definitely an audience for games like this, especially games that do play like XCOM that are strategy, because those are streamlined strategy games. They're not like super high like barrier of entry types of things. Like you're not sitting there trying to play like Civilizations or something with this, or you're playing StarCraft in some way, even though those games are great for what they are. This one is definitely getting a little bit more casual, but still deep enough to get really engaged with it. So this should be fun eventually when it comes out. I don't know if I would necessarily play this because I'm not a huge RTS guy, but if it ends up on like Game Pass or something, I'll definitely check it out.
Well, it's so cool to see a property really hit it on all levels. I mean, they enter the first person shooter level with the skin stuff. They give you the Cowabunga collection so you can immerse yourself in the older games for the TMT stuff. You got Shredder's Revenge as well. Now you have the tactical takedown, which is another type of gaming, I guess,
Another genre.
another genre. So kudos to TMT as they take the reins and push that property into different areas. And it's so cool to see an older property that's been around since the 80s just revitalize itself over and over and over again, be it in the cartoons, be it in the various
It's
comic books,
80s into
whatever.
the 90s because
Yeah.
I grew up a little bit with like the very tail end of the TMNT cartoon.
Oh,
Like
totally, dude.
my thing was like season because again I don't remember how many seasons. I think it was like 10 seasons or 8 seasons that they had, but it was like that 92, 93, 94 around that time frame, or like 93, 93, 94, I want to say, is when the show kind of like had its sunset because 80 mid 80s and late 80s is really where TMNT was like big for a lot of people leading into when we got that movie in 1990. So I kind of caught the tail end of that because my cartoons were very different from the 80s cartoons that were huge for kids back then because I'm a 90s baby more than an 80s baby. So it's nice to know that that franchise and that IP has lasted so long and has been relevant for so long, especially the older stuff. But it's really the turtles have been just about everywhere at this point,
Oh,
over 30 years.
totally, man. And then actually, guys, at Sunrise Comic Con. I forget his name, but there will be a Raph. Like it's like a screen accurate Raphael cosplayer walking around at Sunrise
Nice.
Comic Con. I've seen his cosplay; it's like
From
phenomenal.
like the first TMNT?
I believe so. Yes, I believe. Um,
Nice.
so be sure to take your photo, tag all that good stuff, guys. Believe it or not, Jake, that series of TMT, the first one, aired in 1987. So I was
87.
3 years old. I was born in '84, so I was 3 years old. It had 193 episodes
Yeah.
aired
Yeah, they did.
from
They really made episodes of cartoons back then. They
the,
were they were putting
yeah,
in work,
and that was from
literally.
1987 to
And it
1996.
was everywhere. Turtles, from my understanding, and when you read and watch stuff about it, it was everywhere.
Now, the interesting thing is that during the syndication, you have from, believe it or not, in 87 to 88, there was just 5 episodes. Then 88 to 88, excuse me, October 1st, 1988 to December 24th, 1988, 13 episodes in season two.
Hmm.
Then check this out, dude. September 25th, 1989 to December 15th. That was the first release, then last released episode. They had 47 episodes. So they
Yeah.
went from 5 to 13 to 47 episodes, then to 41, 20, 16, 27. I mean, they, like you said, they use this media in every facet they possibly could.
Turtles were big. The turtles were
Huge.
big, and they were putting out a lot of stuff. They were merchandised everywhere. You had the toys, you had the foods, like the different collaborations. You had the costumes, the props. It was a huge, huge deal.
So it's not surprising to see TMNT go in this branch of creating a different style or genre of game. So be on the lookout, guys, for Tactical Takedown releasing on May 22nd. Something interesting, something different to tickle your
Hmm.
fancy if that's what you're into. But let's step into the rumor world. So we always talk about rumors. Now, once again, Jake is the man with the plan. He is in tune. He's got his ear to the ground of what has been confirmed, what has not been confirmed. So let's first go into a rumor that has been confirmed. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Jake, what is Xbox reportedly making for the people?
So Xbox, according this was confirmed by Phil Spencer not that long ago during an interview. They're making a handheld, and they're actively making an Xbox branded handheld gaming console. And we don't know exactly when this thing's coming out. I don't believe so, but I know they've been working on it for a while. Like that's been a thing. And I know in the article I sent you, I forgot the specific details of it, but like this is an actual thing that's more than likely going to come out probably within the next year or two, in some ways. And it's going to be interesting because this is the first company besides PlayStation in a while that's entering that handheld market that's been so dominated by Nintendo. Because Nintendo is the one that actually is the company that actually has made handheld gaming consoles. Now, I'm not talking about mobile. Mobile is a totally different thing. So when you say mobile, it's phones, it's tablets, it's anything that's outside of like a traditional gaming device. Nintendo's really the one that's been dominating that for many years with the Game Boy, the DS, the 3DS, the GBA, the Switch, which is a hybrid console, both as a home console and a handheld gaming console that could be portable. It's a lot of different things. So it's going to be interesting to see what this is like from Microsoft because I think it's supposed to be built very similar to like a ROG Ally
Mm-hmm.
or like a Steam Deck in some way, but more ROG Ally than anything else. A lot of people have been talking about this for a bit, ever since things got confirmed and things were discussed and rumored that this will be interesting to compare this to the Nintendo Switch 2, which is eventually going to come out very soon. So imagine those two devices on the market and how that's going to be with games that we're getting at home, but we're also play it with us on the go. So it's interesting. It's a weird time because this is not normally Microsoft's wheelhouse when it comes to this. So I'm hoping, when they do put it out, that it's something that people take a liking to and it's tech that people could gravitate towards because otherwise this thing will fail because the big question they got to answer and they got to come up with a solution for is why would anybody get another portable gaming device that isn't Nintendo?
No, exactly. That's true. And also, we left a huge caveat, and my apologies on that. This is a partnership, obviously, between you got Xbox, you got Microsoft, but also this is in collaboration with Asus. So
Yes, Asus, big computer company.
huge computer company, and to see them kind of throw their hat in the ring, I want to see to what
That makes the most sense though,
it
because
does. It
those
does.
are the type of people to go to when you're gonna get like the guts for like the processor or anything else specifically that's gonna make these games run well on a portable device. But I think there's also gonna be a problem though, which is the same problem that they have with the Steam Deck: power, power supply, how long this thing could run, and also how if it not get hot when you're playing this thing and you just cook eggs on it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And even in this article, if you guys want to check it out, you can go to gamerant.com, Xbox handheld Asus, and dig into it. They go into detail about the Steam Deck sales. They go into how the PlayStation Vita outsold the Steam Deck by a 3-1 in 2012 when it launched. And it's just kind of beating it up a little bit. I agree 100%, Jake, with you. Whenever it's not often that I have time to play video games, but when I do have my PSP that I cracked, and my biggest thing with that is that the battery life. I'm running
Yeah.
a third party battery. The thing lasts for basically no time at all, and battery life is always a thought that I have. And also, like I was reading something the other day about what did they call it? They called it like battery anxiety or something like that, where when you have
Say it again. I
it
can't.
was called something along the lines of like battery anxiety or battery stress.
Oh, so specifically for the PSP, there's a couple things. Number one, that the batteries over time could explode if they're left unattended,
Right.
because if you don't use them a lot, they start to bulge up with a lot of the different. I think it's like I forgot the name of it,
Like
but
the
it's the
acid
liquid
inside
that's
of
like
it.
the discharge. Yeah, the acid inside of it that starts to bubble up and stuff. That's one thing. The other thing too, with the with a lot of devices, especially like the PSP, and even you go all the way back to like the Game Boy Advance and stuff, they had a lot of problems getting these things to run for a long time. You could only get like 2 or so hours,
Right.
maybe 3 or 4 hours at the most playing these things, which is still a problem even now because the tech with a lot of the portable devices now is a little bit more complicated and probably better. Because again, you look at a Steam Deck, you look at a ROG Ally, you look at a Nintendo Switch, like the games run pretty well. These are complicated games more so than what we've had in the past in the portable realm. But again, it takes a lot of power to run these things. It's not like you're constantly going to have your device plugged into an outlet, because the point is to take it with you on the go. You're not always going to have that available.
Yeah, I was actually referring to what they refer to as battery anxiety. Believe it or not, this is a real thing. I heard it. I heard it expressed. I think it was a talk in Tesla or something like that. I was listening to, and this is what it says, Jake. It says battery anxiety refers to the feeling of worry, fear, or stress that arises when the battery of a mobile phone or other electronic device is low. This is a phenomenon. Excuse me. This phenomenon is increasingly common in today's digital world, where reliance on
Yeah.
electronic devices by communication, navigation, and other essential functions is widespread. So,
You want to know why that partially is? Because
why?
of FOMO. Because if you lose your device, you're going to be disconnected from social media. That's really what it is. Like
Well,
that makes total sense.
but the real shocking thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know this, the world did exist before cell phones, before the
Yeah,
internet,
exactly.
and we were
We
just
both
fine.
come from it.
We were just fine
We both lived it. Literally
in some ways during our
before the internet.
before the internet in our generation of growing up. I believe when everybody says their generation is the greatest, I think our generation had the best of both worlds because we had our foot up until about high school with very little technology, basic stuff, video game consoles, movies, things like that. And then in high school, cell phones, beepers, the internet, all that kind of stuff moving
Yeah,
into
I would
it.
say like middle high school. Yeah, that's a good point, because from what I remember, like things with the internet specific, and especially personal computers at
Right.
home didn't hit till like about after the new millennium, I want to
Oh,
say, or
100%.
right before around there. Yeah, like
100%.
around, because for me in high school, I graduated in '06. So like if I go back like 6, 7, maybe 10 years from there, there's a point where I could be like, okay, I know there's a specific point where I used to go to the library to play RuneScape. And then right before then, a couple years prior to that, is when there was like hardly any computer usage, like as far as the internet, like we were constantly going outside. Like
Well,
it's just weird. Like you could pinpoint like these specific ages, like pre-internet, pre-computers, and then post-internet, post-cell phones and stuff. It's weird.
oh, I agree 100%. I graduated in '03, and I remember saving those AOL discs just to be able to jump
Yeah.
online. And you're spot on, man. I mean, it was a different world altogether. I think in a lot of ways a better world. In certain ways, and the way we communicate with people, and the way we interact with people, and how we treat other people. And also, I love the technology and the speed of everything and how it's able to help the world get better and stuff. But yes, it's this battery anxiety is definitely a real thing. I have been doing my best to get away from it quite a bit. When if I forget my phone in the car, let's say I'm jumping into Walmart or whatever, I just leave it there and just keep walking, and it's going to be okay and totally fine. And yeah, so to get back to the point of it, Asus, Microsoft, Xbox, challenge accepted. I'm really interested to see what this handheld device is going to be capable of doing. But how long will it last? Like you said, Jake, spot on. How much heat will
Definitely.
it generate? You know what I'm saying?
And how those games are gonna run, by the way. I
How
mean,
it
you could get into everything else as far as, like, the specs with storage space and stuff, which I think
100%.
those types of devices are getting better handling of it, but the game's gotta run good. Like, we know that a system like the Nintendo Switch could run with The Witcher 3 or run games like Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, such. But we want that typical PC experience on the go is what these devices are gonna do. I'm pretty sure that's what the Xbox handheld is probably gonna aim for.
Yeah, and if they can achieve that, God bless them for it. That's going to be
Mhm.
setting the standard and bar very, very high. So, you know what, Xbox, take your time, roll this device out in your own time, and let's see what the best you can do with it, and see what you can
Yeah.
provide a different handheld experience for your guests, and make that battery last a little longer and whatever capacity you can. So, 100%. Talking about technology, guys, I'm sure you've been seeing what's going on. And Jake, once again, you're the man with all the information. So on Kotaku, we have the AI powered, and I mispronounced her name before, A-
Aloy.
Aloy, from
Aloy from Horizon
Horizon
Zero Dawn.
Zero Dawn demos, our terrifying chatbot future. And I'm gonna let you dig into this because I was actually listening to a podcast about this topic this afternoon when I was driving
Mhm.
around. So I'm gonna let you dig into it. You know, what are
Yeah.
what's PlayStation experimenting with here, or Sony experimenting with
So
here?
s so my understanding, because I only looked at it briefly, because this came out earlier this week, and it was a leak where another company that I guess that PlayStation is a client of had been working on this AI powered technology that allowed people to communicate basically with a PlayStation character, in this case, Aloy, from Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. And the weird thing about this is that not only does you see this and it looks freaky, I mean, it still obviously has its kinks that they have to work out because AI as a technology is still developing. It's still becoming a little bit, again, not as smooth as it is now, but it'll get better over time in various capacities. Being able to communicate with a character, be able to create certain, like, I guess, projects or art assets and other things in the gaming space. As someone that communicates with a lot of different people across the games industry and specifically in the media section of it, the games industry is very anti AI for a number of different reasons. This is what makes this story so awkward because you have a lot of companies, a lot of gaming companies exploring the use and the potential of AI for their projects and stuff. And a lot of people in the media and a lot of people in development are very against it because they're worried, obviously, about people's jobs getting in jeopardy, being replaced with the use of AI because it makes certain projects easier and all this other stuff. So when you get as big of a company like PlayStation that's messing with this stuff, and you're seeing something that is a legit IP that they're using with something like this, it shows that they definitely have some sort of big interest with it in a way that scares a lot of those people for many legit reasons. And again, it's very complicated and stuff. But I just thought that the video and a lot of stuff, which by the way got taken down in a
Yes.
lot of
Yep.
places. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw it.
They ninja that one real quick. They went after that, but it was already out there and everybody had already clipped it and shared it with everybody else. But it's a very awkward conversation to have because I feel like AI is not going to go anywhere. AI is going to develop even further. It's going to become a tool that different companies, especially larger AAA companies, are going to try to exploit and utilize to their fullest potential. But you're going to have a lot of upset people along the way, and there's going to be a lot of moral debates and a lot of ethical debates with it over time. It's just there's going to be another one of those things that people are going to point to, and for one reason or another.
Well, when I was listening to, I was actually listening to Joe Rogan's podcast while I was driving, and because I jump from podcast to podcast and kind of just pick up different things here and there, and they were talking about the AI chatbots and the different
Yeah.
modes you can put on them, and the way, the tonality, how you wanted to respond to, what you wanted to say, what you don't want to say, and like you said, man, it's going to be really interesting to see like how AI is integrated into video games, and it's like you said, it's a touchy thing because it's people are scared of it because of job security, and then also like What does it mean for game developers and game designers? And
There's a lot of potential
it's,
for problems, but the problem is with that whole discussion is that look, AI is a tool like any other
yeah,
tool that could be used or misused. And the issue is that you have a lot of people that are being part of that conversation or getting into those debates and arguments, and a lot of them are coming from bad faith. And there's no way to solve or really come to a compromise or come to some common ground when people are coming at it like that. And that's on all sides. That's not just one side over the other. It's literally all over the place because it's such a big deal and it's such a complicated issue for many different people that are looking into this stuff and have legit worries. Like you don't want a company to lay off an entire team because they could just use this one AI program to make all those people obsolete. Obviously, the productivity for the company is great, but also these are people's lives you're playing with, and these are people's jobs and careers. Like again, it's a very, very complicated issue. But hopefully, as things kind of get developed more over the next couple of years, if not longer, we've cut every I think a lot of the people that are in those conversations will find better solutions or better ways to go about it.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And you said it quite elegantly, where it's like it's a vehicle. Same way, we are all given the ability to drive a car, and we can choose what that car does with us. What we do with
Yeah,
that vehicle and what we do with that car. And in the
it's
end,
a legit
hopefully,
tool.
yeah, hopefully it's used for good and not for bad and not for exploitation. I think it'd be kind of cool to interact with a video game character and ask them like questions and get them to respond using this open AI stuff. And it's gonna be really fascinating. If you've noticed in technology in general, I was reading the Steve Jobs, one of Steve Jobs' biographies, and he introduced this concept, and I forget the terminology he actually used, but essentially the principle operates in this manner where as technology progresses, be it software or hardware, and in this example, he used, I believe, hardware when it came to hard drives. He's like, as we begin to improve the hardware in this hard drive example, where it becomes so efficient and we know how to use this tool so well and how to create this tool so well that the amount of gigs in a computer becomes irrelevant because of the mere
Yeah,
fact that now you're progressing at such a high rate of speed that it just doesn't really matter. I remember back in the day when you could put a hard drive into a PlayStation and you could grab yourself an extra 100 gigs or 50 gigs. I remember when hard drives were literally a dollar, $2 a gig. And now on mini SDs, we have 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, a lot.
So I believe, and to get back to his comment where he's talking about this accelerated rate of technology advancement and how the irrelevancy becomes like abysmal as you go up. I think of it the same now with AI and ChatGPT and the open AI stuff. Dude, this wheel is spinning so fast that it's going to happen faster than we all could possibly think. And you know what, dude? You hit on the head. We have to know how to use this tool to
Yeah,
benefit humanity and society.
wise heads is
And
what we need.
yeah, and to figure out how we can use it and also not be ignorant of it and not bury our head in the sand. And as
Yeah,
this
exactly.
podcast was talking about, he was talking about how people are just so up in the air about it. And you know what, dude? I'm trying to dig into it more so I better understand it. I better understand how we could use it, how I wouldn't support it. And with the video game stuff, dude, I don't know. It's
They're
pretty
very anti-AI, man. Like I
it's
could tell you right now, I've seen a lot of people that are very, very anti-AI
dude,
to
they should
like
just start
to
learning how to
almost
use it.
well, the thing is like to an obnoxious way, fashion in the sense where it's like I think much more sooner than later, and you're starting to see it now. People are starting to come around on the idea of being more open to talking about it and stuff. But I remember not even like a year or two ago, like there was a lot of people that are very vocally anti-AI to the point where it's like they are literally like almost being vigilant towards places or people that are like trying to support it in different ways. Like it's a very weird conversation, especially in the media. The conversations I get to see amongst different journalists and a lot of different people that work at outlets and stuff, because I think sometimes people tend to talk about subjects that are very ignorant of them,
Mm-hmm.
that are very like ill-informed and stuff where it's like they're not open-minded or at least not giving it enough due diligence to at least explore it and see what the real conversation is. But again, things will hopefully change over the next year or so, or maybe even longer.
I compare it in a lot of ways, and I know some people might not agree with this. I compare it in a lot of ways to the artistic expression of a painter, right? And what I mean by that is this. you go back to the beginning of civilization as we know it, where cavemen and women or Neanderthals or whatever they are, tapping these drawings into stone, right?
Yeah.
And they were using the tools that they had available to express their creativeness in the best means possible. Then obviously goes around, we roll into the whole, now we're using metal and we're using wood and we're using tapestries and we're using paper, and then we're using, now we don't make the paints anymore by hand, we have pre-made paints made by machinery in order to expedite human expression, right? And to pretty much put what's in our noggins onto the canvas as eloquently as possible, as quickly as possible, right? And with AI and that whole world behind it, I believe that's what we're seeing here too. People are scared of what they don't understand. And like my example with the hard drives, believe it or not, Jake, and this is where people got to be really wise. And when it comes to video games and gaming, and understand the expedited increase of how rapidly this has gone up. Think about it this way. Check this out. So in the 1950s and 1970s, we had IBM 350, right? It had
Yeah.
5 megabytes of data storage, 5 megabytes. Then in the 1970s, it roughly had 60 megabytes. Then 1980s, 1990s, the mid 1990s, you had between 500 megabytes and 1 gig, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking the span of 20 years. You see that 100x go up, right? Then you go
Yeah.
back into 2000s, where you're now dealing with, in 2007, 1 terabyte. And then now in 2025, hard disk drives can be up to 36 terabytes. So you know what, brother? They better get on board real quickly, because this train's leaving the station. So
Yeah,
they better.
technology is just going to change regardless of feelings.
e-
Tech and stuff is going to progress.
Exactly. And you know what? The early adapters, like we've probably discussed this before, where I talk about the bell curve. And the bell curve always, in anything, life, business, technology, video games, whatever, is that you always have this bell curve. And on the bottom, you have the late adapters, and then you have like the mid adapters, and then you have like the first adapters, right? And you really
Yeah.
want to become aware of it. And dude, that's where I, commend you, among many things, of digging constantly into stuff and understanding it thoroughly. And not to beat a dead horse, but you know what? This is the first of many conversations I'm sure we'll have and people will have about how AI, artificial intelligence,
Yeah, it's never going to
is
stop
going to be
any
integrated
point.
into this, and there's no stopping it. There's no stopping it.
Definitely.
You might as well just learn how to use it to your advantage to benefit society as much as possible, and to have creative expression and artistic expression. I think, and I'm going to leave this here, and you can chime in here, brother, before we run into the last one.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. If you're able to use the AI tools available to you, right, and you're a game developer, in what would have been prohibitively impossible for you to create because of financial restrictions, now with these tools and these assets at your disposal, if you learn how to use them, you will be able to create something that at one time, a very short while ago, was nearly impossible.
Yeah,
And
or at least something to compete on a AAA level in some
totally,
ways. Like that's the
totally,
thing
dude.
about it. It's a tool. This all this stuff is a tool, but at the same time, while all that is very good and very nice and very interesting to explore, at the same time, a lot of people get caught up on the business aspect of it and also about the humanitarian aspect of it. Because when in most companies, again, you're even seeing this in a couple different outlets that are journalism outlets, for gaming and entertainment, where some of the articles are powered by AI, or at least have some sort of element of AI into them, where those make those types of tasks and stuff obsolete for other people to do. Meaning, in other words, like you don't need to hire those other people.
Yep.
And that's where things get very complicated, because it becomes a moral and an ethical debate about, are you going to hire or going to fire people, for some of the stuff, the production and the work that gets put out there and other things. Again, gets very complicated. And I don't think at this point in time, with AI, whether it's about development, whether it's about entertainment, whether it's about artistic expression, there's no one or even a couple easy answers,
Yeah.
because I think it's just so gray and so muddy right now with the way that things are. But as the technology progresses and, like I said, wiser heads approach it, I think we'll have a better understanding of things.
Yeah, and just as a final comment, you guys probably saw in the Oscars last week, Flow
Oh yeah,
won
the
best
Brutalist.
best animated feature film, and that movie was
Or not the
designed.
Brutalist. That was an animated feature. I'm talking about in the Oscars. The Brutalist had AI
Oh yeah,
with the
I'm
speech.
talking about
Yeah,
flow.
that
I'm
also.
talking about
Oh, Flow. Yeah,
the guy who
exactly.
used the animator tools in order to create an award-winning film.
Yeah.
You know, and he used the tools available to him. So we're gonna have to wait and see. And I encourage you to to dig into it, learn about it, understand it, do the best of your
Hmm.
ability, and utilize those tools. So let's see what happens with PlayStation's AI implementation. And last but surely not least, we do have a rumor on the floor tonight, and that is all about Oblivion. But I'll let you, Jake, take the reins of this.
So basically, anybody that's a big fan of the Elder Scrolls, you know about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, big game in the Xbox 360 era, has been remastered, I believe, before in the past. Not as much as Skyrim though. Skyrim's probably the one that's the most re-released and remastered, and probably the most successful out of the entire franchise. But there's an Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake coming, and it could be announced as early as next month. From some places that are
Really,
saying like this
next
is a
month.
thing that next month. And the thing is, it might be on multiple consoles, including the Nintendo Switch 2, is what people are saying. And that's very interesting because I think this is cool because people love Elder Scrolls. We obviously still have to wait for the Elder Scrolls 6, which was announced God knows how long ago and still hasn't been really updated or hasn't really been done yet. But a lot of people love these games. A lot of people love the Elder Scrolls, and Oblivion is one of those games outside of Skyrim that people really enjoyed back in the day. So having a remake of it, it sounds pretty interesting. Now I wonder if this something like this does successful, would they go back and also remake stuff like Elder Scrolls? I think it's Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. This is the game right before it, or any of the other Elder Scrolls game. Maybe even remake Skyrim. You know, I could totally see them doing that because that game sells so much as many times as it's been released and reprinted in the way that it has. But yeah, we're getting more than likely. I think this might be confirmed very soon. We're gonna get Oblivion remake.
Yeah, and having all these remakes, and I think it's gonna be good for everybody. Get new people into the game. Those different series and those different yeah, just I think it
You
can be
know what's
really
crazy though,
interesting.
dude? When you really think about this, because the last couple of years we've had a number of big remakes and we got some more coming of like really classic, really like beloved and iconic games. I mean, there's still a possibility we might get Knights of the Old Republic remake for Star Wars,
Yes,
which is
yes.
still a thing that's apparently still happening with Saber Interactive. But when you really think about it, we're getting Oblivion remake. We've had Resident Evil remakes, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, Dead Space remake. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff. Like we had the Crash Bandicoot games remade for the Crash 1, 2, and 3 from the PlayStation in the Insane trilogy. We've had Spyro remakes for the Spyro collection. Like this is stuff in this era that I think is pretty cool because a lot of those beloved games from that 90s and all the way up through 2000s eras, that audience that grew up with that has become the audience either that are the consumers buying games now or the ones developing them. So they're like you're seeing these games in a different light that are like really modernized, really polished, really presented in a really cool way that a lot of younger generations below us are going to get to experience in like the most utmost like best way that when these games come out. I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's cool now, but I think it's going to get even better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's cool to see. Once again, I go back to this rebirth, and when you mentioned Spyro and Crash Bandicoot games that we grew up with,
SE7, that's another one.
to see
Like
everyone, to see
wow.
them all being remastered and being brought back up, and it's just a really cool time to be alive, right? Like, to be
It's
able
really
to
cool
see
to
everything.
see this because a lot of these games that have gotten remakes or getting remakes and stuff, I saw them when they were first released. Like I lived through that as a fan of gaming and now also as a professional for some of these games. Like Dead Space, I remember getting re-released on Xbox 360 or yeah, PlayStation 3 like that, and then seeing that get remade into the game that it is now. You know, that's pretty cool. And then again, thinking about KOTOR remake or Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic getting remade. I remember when that released on the original Xbox and then being around that time frame, which I consider to be the golden age of Star Wars games, and then seeing like that type of thing make some sort of resurgence is very cool. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? If you like, I would recommend if you're not really into video games, like we've discussed before, find something that works for you. And maybe video games isn't that, but if you do like video games, there's so many different styles of games, genres of games. I think you use Jake as a word, genres of games that work for you, and it's. I don't know, man. Like I said, it's a really interesting time to be alive. It's exciting, it's invigorating, and all this different video game news. I don't even know how you keep up with all of it. It's just so much.
I just do because I'm that good, and it's my passion, and I just have to do so because I love engaging with this stuff.
It just takes guys a special breed to take all this information in. So, regardless of whether or not you're going to play the new Oblivion or the remastered Oblivion, or you're going to play, I don't know, Galaga here at Flynn's, just find something you enjoy. Have a little fun. Life's too short to not enjoy the ride along the road. So, we're going to jump straight into any comments that we had throughout the stream. And for those of you listening at later times, if you'd like to ask more comments, things of that nature, by all means, jump into it. So I'm just going to go straight through it and see if I can find. See what we got. My bad. See if we can find any stuff. So here we go. Michael, we've already talked about the documentary for Tetris. There are various documentaries. Ecstasy of Order. There is also the movie Tetris as well. You can check out a lot of really cool, fun video game documentaries, and maybe we'll do an episode on that at Press F to Start. We'll kind of dig into that a little deeper. Let's see what else. Saw Michael's talking about ET, where he's like, "Oh, I saw it as a kid, was confused, and just found it dumb."
Yeah. Well, funny enough, that game was also made by the same group or the same people that did the Indiana Jones game on the Atari 2600, which is also another weird game that's very similar to it, just a lot more complicated in ways. But that game gets a bad rap because of a lot of different things that aren't necessarily as true as it's led on to be. Like the game isn't good, but again, it's really not the worst game of all time.
No, I do agree 100%. I think they just named it the worst game of all time because of how much was produced and how much had to be thrown away. It wasn't
Because it was tied to the video game crash. That's the thing. The reason why that happens was because of the video game crash of that era. And I think also in the years that followed, when you had a lot of content creators that were covering it, like the Angry Video Game Nerd and many other people, that continued like the whole idea of like this is like the worst game of all time.
We have Michael made a comment here. Owed AOL $7 10 years after they shut down. They shook me down for it. AOL's coming after you, Michael, for the $7 you owe them.
AOL's a throwback, man. I still remember those sounds from booting it up connected to the internet. That's wild.
I do run into like those AOL emails every so often where they're like, "Oh, it's da 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 at AOL.com." I didn't even know they were still around. Michael asked, "Was Doom a remake?"
Doom 2016 wasn't a remake, it was a reimagining of that series because Doom 2016 and the original Doom are not the same game. It's just that it's like a reimagining of what Doom as an idea and as a concept is, and then Doom Eternal is a sequel to that. It's just that it happens to be awesome. It's just a fantastic FPS that's just like a must play for people.
So there you heard it, guys. Go check out Doom. What is it? 2020 what?
Doom 2016. It's just called Doom, but it was made in 2016.
There you go. Go check out Doom, guys. I always enjoyed that Doom walkthrough. You've made walkthrough videos of that game, haven't you?
What I was going to say, like I helped do the wiki guide content on IGN for Doom. I did the video stuff for it. I actually did video playthroughs and secret stuff, like finding like Easter eggs and like unlockables and such for Doom, which is pretty wild. I've done that for a number of games with IGN, but I remember Doom was the one I had the most fun with because it's freaking Doom. Like it's simple as that.
How difficult is it to make those walkthroughs for video games?
Oh my God. So let me tell you, some of my favorite times was playing games like Doom, was playing games like Tekken 7, which are awesome. Even though you're doing a lot of work making guides, it's still fun. Now, when it becomes a problem, like a real problem, is when you have to sit there to do a guide for a game like Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, or when you have to do it for Neo, or if you have to do it for a game like Kingdom, or the WWE 2K games. I've had to do 2 of those when I was doing stuff for IGN. The thing is, and what makes it so difficult and complicated is that you have to play the game sometimes blind because like in some cases you're the only one who's playing that game first before the rest of the world. So there's nothing to refer to. There's no guides because you're making the guide. But also you have to play the game you try to play the game on your time, but sometimes you have to play the game on the game's time. So like if you want to get past a certain section, well, guess what? You're just going to have to wing it and just get it done, even if the section is so difficult. That's what happened to me constantly with Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, because it's a Souls game and it's like you cancel your whole week's plans because you're dealing with this thing. That's how difficult and obnoxiously frustrating that a game like that could be. But there's been many other games that I've enjoyed doing stuff like that. I did it for Ghost Recon Wildlands, which I also got to do video stuff for IGN with on the side for it. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, I wrote the guide, the wiki guide. I did the review, the written review, and the video review of that game. So I did all that content for that. And there's many others. Nier Automata is another one I did for that. And I used to write also before I got brought on as a freelancer for wiki guides. I used to do my own wiki guides on their sections there. I did it for games like Street Fighter 2 HD Remix or Super Street Fighter 2 HD Remix. I did it for Altered Beast. I did it for Mortal Kombat 2. That it's just writing stuff out and just playing the game and just, you know, trying to make a guide where you're where you're instructing people just to get from point A to point B. That's like the easiest thing with it. But everything else with some of the more complicated guides gets a little bit, again, a lot more work. And whether you're doing videos, whether you're doing writing pages or getting images like screenshots, there's a lot of stuff. Another one I did too that I've talked about at times was for Fallout 4. I was responsible for finding all the vaults in Fallout 4 and also the movie Easter eggs that are like Easter eggs in the game that are references to other movies and
Yeah.
pop culture and stuff. So stuff like that was always fun, but there was definitely those times where it wasn't.
Man, that sounds when something you have so much passion for and you're so into, and then it turns into work. You know, that has to
Oh,
be.
I didn't mind the workload. It's just that again, when you have to play Neo and you have to do the guide pages for Neo or the DLC for it, where to get to the DLC you have to beat the game in order to unlock this section. It's like you got to struggle through all this just to get to the thing to start, and it's like the game just doesn't want to cooperate with you. I hated it with Dark Souls 2 because it's a Souls game, and I can't. That's one of the main reasons why I can't stand that genre. And yeah, and I played just about every game that has been with it, almost every game, I should say, you know, for work or for reviews and stuff. And I still to this day just can't stand it.
Well, if you guys are looking for a totally awesome content creator, game reviewer for your company or website, Jake James Lugo. So you're able to
Yeah.
hit him up,
And
and
James Lugo and I approve this
there
message.
you go. Hit him up, and he'll dig into any game through Hello Kitty Wonderland Island number 4, whatever game.
I would when I finished Dark Souls or when I finished Elden Ring and stuff. I wanted, infamously, after I finished Elden Ring or I stopped playing it, I went to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I went to a Kirby game because that's
Really?
how messed up I was after that. Like I needed the pendulum to swing in the other direction. It was so horrible.
Well, we've covered a bunch of different topics, guys, here. This is Press F to start, recording live from Flynn's studio at Flynn's Hobby Shop in Margate, Florida. We're open pretty much every day of the week, right next door to the arcade. If you're listening or watching this before March 15th, we surely do hope to see you at Sunrise Comic Con from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. You don't have to stay for the whole time, but definitely come on by for Jake's panels towards the later half of the day. I believe he said 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. I believe it was, Jake.
Yeah, 4 p.m. 4 p.m. is going to be my gaming panel, which is going to be all about gaming topics in 2025.
Right.
And then at 5 p.m., it's going to be Star Wars 2025 and beyond, which is all about Star Wars, the franchise, games, content, everything we want to talk about, even the crazier stuff like the Acolyte or the Last Jedi. We're getting into all of it that day. So, and what's cool is that the 501st Legion is going to be there too. So I hope a lot of those guys and everybody else that's into Star Wars will come swing by and come say hi.
And you know what, guys? It's all about supporting one another to the best ability we possibly can. You know, Jake and I were given this opportunity to create something new here at Flynn's. Press F to start. And we're just, you know, knocking them out one at a time and just having fun talking about it, digging into things I knew nothing about. And Jake's educating me a million times over about the video game current news. And we just want you to have fun with it. So if you're able to come out this Saturday to Sunrise Comic Con or here at the arcade, we'd love to see you. Love to say hi. Come on by, stop by, grab one of our free stickers, maybe grab a snack or whatever. But just enjoy what you're doing. We surely do hope you have an absolutely amazing rest of the day. I know we have the eclipse we're going to try to catch on the tail end of this. If you want to reach out to us about the studio or about renting the studio here at Flynn's, hit us up at studio@flinsgaming.com, studio@flinsgaming.com. Also, subscribe to our email newsletter. I'm about to roll out our email newsletter tomorrow. Well, I guess later this morning for this weekend stuff. Got a bunch of stuff about karaoke, about free movie passes, about your potential ability to win passes to the Renaissance Fair or Renaissance Festival. A lot of cool stuff. You're able to find us on all social media platforms at Flynn's Gaming FL. But before we sign off, if you want to get more gaming content, be sure to check out our previous episodes or go check out Jake on every single social media channel platform known to man. And Jake, where can they find you? What is the I guess the hashtag or the
The
username,
handle.
the handle?
The,
There you go,
that
bro.
hashtag is very different than the
Sorry,
handle,
the
but
handle, the handle, the
yeah,
handle.
the handle everywhere is at Jake James Lugo. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/ at Jake James Lugo. Follow me on there. Say hi. I'm always on there every day. Same thing on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I am at Jake James Lugo on all those platforms, constantly every day, talking with people, sharing content that I'm doing. But you can also find me on YouTube, youtube.com/ at Jake James Lugo, constantly posting up different videos and YouTube shorts on a variety of topics, including gaming, Star Wars, pop culture, etc. And then also finally, tiktok.com/ at Jake James Lugo. I am literally posting there every single day, new content, short videos, Star Wars, gaming, pop culture, movies and TV, all types of stuff that I know you guys will love. I announced over there my panels about that I'm going to have at Sunrise Comic Con, as well as everything else that I'm doing and everything else that I feel like talking about in relation to gaming and everything else. So don't be a stranger. Say hi, come follow me on there, and just be cool and chill.
And know you guys, you are loved and appreciated. We're so thankful you've joined us for episode 5. Press F to start. All part of the Uncensored Nerds Network. Be sure to check out Comic Con Podcast. We got issues, Plot Hole Pros, and Beyond the Cape for all your nerdy podcast streaming needs. And it's just really cool to find, I don't know, stuff you're into and listen to it. Go watch some nerdy documentaries, guys. This is it. May you all live long and prosper. And until next time, we'll see you at Press F to start. Have a great night, guys.
Take it easy.